of emerging tech and groundbreaking technologies, we are now moving from theoretical to the practical. What does it take for you to shape the products of the future? Well, ideas, imagination, and invention, and our next session brings together three people who have all these in abundance. In Invented by Youth, they will explore how big ideas become real inventions, what sparks creativity, and how the tools and techniques the next generation can use to turn curiosity into change. Please welcome to the stage, in conversation with Misk Fellow Leen Hashem, Sustainability Innovation CEO Srrah Algheithy, Claisen founder Rishab Jain, and the STEM ambassador and inventor Andini Makosinski.
Hello and welcome all. Good afternoon. I was gonna say good morning. It's been a really long day, right?
It feels like morning.
It feels like morning still. Well, welcome everyone to the second session of the day. We are very excited. There's very high energy on the stage with us today. First of all, as most of you know, invention is at the forefront of every developing country's expectations. Every country that wants to proceed into more, this is the first thing they do. So having on stage three phenomenal youth inventors is an honor to myself, to Misk, and to the country. So thank you so much. Thank you all for being with us. The first question I'd like to actually first start with is to Rishad. Your first big breakthrough came at the age of just 13, when you developed an AI tool to help screen for pancreatic cancer. Can you take us back to that moment and what sparked that feeling, and how did you move from curiosity to actually building something that worked?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of interesting now because I think with the advent of LLMs and the sort of ChatGPT moment circa like 2022, when I was 13, 8 years ago, maybe that was like before AI was really cool. But even at that time, we had AI technology all around us. I remember the Google Home, Amazon Alexa were getting introduced into everyone's homes. You started to have basic voice AI, NLP-based translation tools becoming widespread. And so I was really interested in just leveraging that technology for projects that I was curious about. At the time, I was really interested in MRI technology, and there was a specific MRI technology called image-guided based radiotherapy, which is essentially where you use an MRI machine on a patient who has a cancer and are able to image the patient and use the image in real time in order to target and give more precise therapy. So at that time, there wasn't much AI being used, and so there was a very narrow AI application of developing a specific model there that could improve upon the state-of-the-art technology. And so, yeah, became curious in it, read a lot of books and research papers about it, and over the course of a year or two was able to develop an algorithm for that, which I then was able to publish and share with the research community.
So you'd say that there was a problem with the resource. As you said, it wasn't far spread like it is now, where I'm pretty sure every kid in the audience listening to us has an iPad that has ChatGPT installed into it, asking questions about homework. So a matter of resources and planning how to get to that phase and having the dedication. You said 2-3 years to get to that point. So audience, don't give up, stay persevering. To Srrah, your company, Sustainable Innovations, is involved in product development and prototyping. Could you walk us through the typical process from ideation through design, prototyping, and even testing to the end final result and product? Where do you see the biggest barriers are? We have mentioned now the lack of resource or knowledge. What have you faced?
Yeah, so I think many of you have heard the phrase, think outside the box, but Sustainable Innovations, we innovate inside the box. And that's because we are innovating for products that are aiming to serve a specific market. And so we start with thinking about the market that we want to enter into, and we start to define all of the different types of constraints and the success factors that need to exist for that product to compete before we ever design anything. So what we do is we identify a long list of constraints. These can be technical, commercial, manufacturing, 9 different types of constraint categories. And those constraints are the box. And then we innovate inside the box. One of the many barriers that young innovators may face when they go through this process is one, being inclined to address each constraint independently, but realistically, each one of them influences the other. So at Sustainable Innovations, we have that systematic mindset where we're looking at the challenge as a whole, and every single design is thinking about the end product and how that solution works together. And another challenge is the inclination to kind of start with the solution. So people sometimes get very excited and very passionate about a specific solution before actually grounding it in realistic like usability or competitiveness and so on. So ultimately what we do is we just create a process that is repeatable, resilient, and that's what allows us to consistently take an idea from an imagined idea on paper to something that is ready to compete and in the market.
So you'd say that constraints is the main focus of the process. It's creating the box in which you can roam and discover. And when you create the constraints, you mentioned that you're creating inside the box because of you're keeping the customers or the people you're serving at the forefront, which means you're noticing what the community needs, which takes me to Andini's question. Andini, for those who don't know, is a very unique inventor because she notices a problem and then tackles it. So you don't just create a solution for the domain of creation, you create it directly to the consumer. So my question to you is, many inventions start with simply noticing a problem. Your first invention, the body heat powered flashlight, was prompted by your friend in the Philippines not having electricity to study. How can young people train themselves to notice these everyday problems that could spark great innovations?
That's a great question. Hi, everyone. I would say for me, I mean, there's a great quote, which is just necessity is the mother of invention. And it's often when you're being observant about the environment around you, what your friends are going through, your family members, and you can ask them questions like, what are the problems you're facing? Or you'll just start noticing things once you get off your phone. I do think the phone is a huge obstacle to creativity and invention, which is maybe a bit opposite to what other people at the conference might believe, but for me, I usually have a label on the back of my phone that says hated object because I despise it but must use it. But for me, like, inventing started when I was a kid and I didn't have a lot of toys, so I would take my hot glue gun and garbage from around the house and piece together inventions. So I was solving my own problem, and then I was doing science fair projects. I did 10 science fairs before I graduated high school, and they were all kind of me detecting problems that my friends were facing. Like, I'm half Filipino, so I had a friend in the Philippines who wrote to me and said she had no light to study with at night because her family couldn't afford to pay for electricity, so she had failed a grade in school. So that kind of prompted me to go, okay, can I create a light source that wouldn't require any batteries? What would that look like? So I actually did several different types of experimentations and projects before I came up with the hollow flashlight, which is very simple. It's a flashlight that runs off the heat of the human hand using thermoelectrics and a simple circuit. Or the following year, I noticed that my friends' coffee was taking too long to cool down and that their phones were always running out of battery. So I created the e-drink, which was a coffee mug that harvested the excess heat of your hot drink and converted it into electricity. So eventually, if you drank a lot of coffee, you could give your phone a boost of energy. I mean, that was a more proof of concept that didn't make it to the market. But I think I've always just been someone who loves problem solving, loves looking for little issues and going, how can I make this better for someone else?
I love the modesty and down to earthness. It's a simple circuit, guys. Yeah, that is amazing. But what tip would you say you would give to the audience here to try and stay alert? You said conversations and the phone being an obstacle. How can we stay off the phone when our friends are in some other places?
I think we live in a community that's absolutely terrified of being bored. I think we kind of need hyperstimulation all the time now because we're so used to being attached to our technology. So I would really encourage you to put down your technology, once a day, 20 minutes even, and sit with yourself. I kind of said this on the main stage yesterday as well, but see what ideas arise. I practice transcendental meditation, which my favorite director, David Lynch, also talked about a lot, which is just sitting with yourself. You have a simple mantra, and you're just allowing ideas to emerge, because often, when we're in line waiting for something or standing around, we're often just going on our phone automatically. And instead, I would really encourage you to let your mind wander. Or every time I'm at a restaurant, I used to do this with my dad growing up, and we're just waiting for food. He would grab the napkin and he would start drawing ideas of inventions on it, and I would also add to it and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes I carry a notebook out, and if I'm out with friends and we're sitting down, I'll just start a drawing, and then we pass it around and come up with something.
You see what comes up.
Yeah, I think just being open to ideas. We're so critical of ourselves sometimes, and I think as adults we need to learn to play and have fun and enjoy our imagination.
I love that. And I love how you said that you're always constantly thinking and wandering, and you allow that wander to navigate into opportunity, which takes me to Rishab. As someone who's worked, you combine two things, which is technology and healthcare, which isn't easy at all. You chose the two hardest fields to combine, so good job on that. How do you choose which problems to tackle? What makes you say, this is a problem worth solving? Obviously, there's many problems in healthcare. And how do you know if it's viable enough to merit the time and money that you're going to invest in order to solve it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think specifically on the time and money component, it's pretty interesting, but at least in the US, there's definitely a bias today for funding towards B2B ideas, which are ideas where you're creating some sort of product or some software technology that could be sold to other businesses. There's several reasons for that, whether it's potential private equity buyouts in the future or due to valuation multiples, whatever the reason might be. But I think I personally, and I think many young people, are most interested in direct-to-consumer ideas, the types of things that your friends and family can use. Maybe it's solving a problem that you yourself experienced or thought of, and that's kind of that leads me to what I'm working on today at Claisen, where we're working on a direct-to-consumer AI technology that lets anyone get access to high-quality healthcare right from their smartphone. But yeah, I think that's just a suggestion I would have for everyone, that don't be afraid to explore direct-to-consumer ideas. I think you'll often hear investors, grant opportunities, whatever it might be, lean to other things, but really stick to the problem that you're passionate about, because I think it'll lead to more return later on.
So the way you'd say that something is viable is the amount of return you can get back from it and how much you can continue to support it sustainably. And sustainably meaning that you can continue to fund it, research it, develop it through the years. And I'd like to ask Srrah similar question. It's how do you decide on the go or no go? There's many ideas that you can work with, and being a CEO of a sustainable company, I'm sure there's approach of what's inside and outside of the box. So what do you do in that phase when you're at a cross paths of a really good idea, but you can't really evaluate it?
Yeah, so touching on what Rishab said about sometimes an inclination to go to software-based products, that's typically because they're just easier to develop. You can take the risk of just testing them, launching them, and iterating. But in fields like inventions or in hard tech, in the field that we're working in sustainable innovations, it's a much higher risk environment, because you have to spend a lot of resources and time before you ever get a prototype. So it's very critical for us to have a clear mechanism to decide what is go and what is no-go. And similar to my colleagues is that we start with looking at the challenge itself. So we look at the challenge and we really dissect it very deeply. Is there a true challenge there? Is there a sense of urgency? Is that challenge in just one market or multiple? That tells us if there's a true problem that needs solving and it's worth solving. Then we have to look at the valuability component. So we look at the market. We look at how large that market is. Is it going to grow or reduce over time? Does it contribute to multiple markets? And that answers the value of the product. If you were to solve, how much is its value, its long-term value, as well as its scalability. And then, and only then, do we start to brainstorm and identify the solution. Obviously, it has to be technically competitive. It has to have a value proposition. But once again, linking it back to the first two elements, we have to look at what's it going to cost us to develop it, because the product development cycle is very tedious and time-consuming and costly. And also, what is it going to cost once it gets into the market? Are people going to buy it? Is it going to succeed? Is it going to be? Can I build a business around it? So that way, when we look at those through all those three components, we've done that all before we ever actually invested any money or time into developing. So if at stage one we realize that there's no existing challenge, we can just stop there. But if we find a problem that checks all of those boxes, then we know that we have found a problem and a solution that is worth, that's going to be impactful, that's going to be innovative, and that's going to be worth actually investing in.
And I think this is a general question for everyone. We've all talked about products making it to the market or not making it to the market. How do you silence out the expectations of the outside or what the current trends of innovation are and truly spark something innovative by its essence, not by its definition? Because what we notice a lot is, for example, with AI, every company has to integrate AI right now. Every company has to integrate that specific aspect of new trends of technology. So how do you silence out and you balance that with realizing what the true, not getting sucked into the trends of innovation? Any one of you can say it.
I think it's okay to kind of be aware, and you should be aware of emerging technology. But as you said, we shouldn't have a bias and inclination to do what exists in the market right now, because that maybe actually delays the opportunity for you to actually come up with something more innovative or the next trend, or let's say. So it's okay to utilize those technologies if they're going to give you efficiency, but also balance between that and doing something that's truly new, unique, and has potential new impact.
I like that. So focusing on keeping it clear. I like that. Andini, I move on to the next question. Do you want to add to it?
Oh, I'm probably not the most constructive person to ask about that. I think I just follow my passions and interests, which have led me to a whole variety of different things, and not necessarily making a lot of money commercially off my inventions. But I would just follow what I don't want to say it's so cheesy, but what your heart tells you. I think inventing is a lot about empathy and what do you feel the most motivated to do. And I definitely have had a lot of entrepreneur friends who've tried to sell a product, but it was much more because like, oh, this will earn money and might do well, versus like, oh, I'm actually really passionate about this thing. Because if there's one thing I've learned, I mean, I invented the flashlight when I was 15, and I'm here many years later, and it's still the thing that people talk about. So if you are going to pursue something, or you have an interest, you want to do a startup, make sure you love it, because you're really going to be attached to it for a very long time.
Yes, that's so true. Like, many years later, you still come back to number one, innovation.
Yeah.
So passion comes first. Don't listen to trends. That sums it up. Is there anything, Rishab, you want to add on that?
Yeah, no, I think definitely echoing that advice, and probably the only other thing I would add is like speak to your end customer and the people that would end up using your invention or product, both on the end of receiving mentorship. So specifically for many of the young people here, when I was 13 through even today, I've found it extremely useful to talk to industry leaders in the space, and they're often I really like to find people who have maybe some similar journey to where I'm at, whether it's they attended the same school or they had a similar upbringing or something like that. Just because then to them it almost feels like they're maybe mentoring a younger version of themselves. They're more willing to give me advice. But yeah, asking mentors, and then with our company most recently, we joined YC or Y Combinator. It's like a startup incubator in SF. And the number one thing they always say is just ask your customers, obsess over customer feedback, and use that to iterate. But I do think that personal passion matters more and should trump that at the end of the day.
I like that. So I will say one takeaway is fill the customer survey they send at the end. They send you an email, always fill it in. He's literally telling you this is what works best to produce the right products. So thank you. I mean, everyone here could take a little fruits of their labor, learn from what they said. When you create something, keep passion and customer balance, and I think that sums it up perfectly for everyone. Andini, I do have a very interesting question. Is that you just spoke about how that science fair project won you global awards and still is mentioned and still is relevant in your current career. What was some of the biggest lessons you learned in turning that small idea into something that's so real and so persistent within your life consistently? And did you work with others to achieve that? And how did you feel throughout the entire process? Was it ever overwhelming as a youth?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I was making science fair projects and inventing things, I never thought at all that it would get any attention. I literally loved just competing at science fairs. It was like public speaking, basically, and presenting a thing that I had made after school. So when it started getting a lot of attention, when I won at the Google Science Fair and all these things happened, then I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do something with this. Like, I don't have anything prepared. I don't know how to public speak. Yeah, so I have patents for both my inventions, the e-drink and the flashlight, in Canada and the US, which took far too much time and money. I tried many times to get my flashlight in production. A lot of businessmen would approach me as like a 17-year-old who had no business experience. My parents had no business experience, so we had no idea what we were doing. The advice I could give is always have a lawyer. Do not sign things. I mean, it's very basic, but as a 21-year-old, when I was signing agreements, I was like, oh, it's whatever. Like, I'm the creative. Like, I don't want to even think about that. So I ended up signing some very bad business deals, and I had to back out of like a multi-book deal and a TV show deal, and I was pitching my inventions to Hasbro and all these big children's toys things for a line of toys I'd made, and I just had to back out of everything and restart in 2021, which was a big learning experience. I forget your original question. It was, oh yes, I had mentors. So my father was the main person that kind of pushed me to do inventing and science fairs. I probably would not have finished any project on time if I didn't have a mentor. And then throughout the years, I've met wonderful people at different conferences, like the hacker Pablo Holman is a wonderful person that I look up to and occasionally have a mental breakdown in front of once every couple of years. And a lot of incredible women in my life who have really inspired me, and my mom is such a supporter of my work, no matter if it's in sciences or the arts, which if you have Asian parents can take, you know, a long time for them to come around to if you're not doing engineering. But yeah, I would say in general, taking an idea and physicalizing it to invention is a long process, but it can be very rewarding. And I would say most inventors are usually behind the scenes and not really sharing much until you have some sort of protection on what you're doing.
That is true, and I just want to say, Mom, if you're watching this, she tells you thank you. But you're right. At the end of the day, you need someone to hold you accountable, and you surround yourself by these people to make yourself leverage yourself and your time and work efficiently. Which takes me to a question actually to Srrah. You have a lot of experience of working on inventions in teams rather than solos. Do you have any favorite frameworks or tools to work out what's needed in a team and how to enable collaboration on a product where not one voice is outcasting on the shadows of everyone else?
Yeah, so we get asked a similar question a lot in sustainable innovations, is that how are you able to develop a wide variety of different hardware products with the same team? And this comes back to basically the collaborative approach that we take. So we have multidisciplinary teams, and for reference, we've developed products in medtech, agri-tech, marine, automotive, so all of those are with the same kind of multidisciplinary team. And usually the inclination is for each person to kind of focus on their area of expertise and what they know best. But we try to resist that as much as possible. And we start off with having the team in the design phase all working together to look at the product as a whole. So everybody is aware of all of the risks so in every single element of the product and also the end goal. And then the second thing we do is we have each of the team members, we challenge them to step one step outside of their discipline. And we're not expecting a mechanical engineer to become an electrical engineer or vice versa. It's more that we want each one of them to understand how their designs or their disciplines may impact the greater system. And so that they know that mechanical, when he selects this material, just how much it might change things for the electrical system and so on. So that together, along with a consistent design reviews where we're all still looking at that box and making sure that the product is destined to fit that framework, is how we're able to tackle many different challenges with the same team. And overall, I would just sum it up by saying that yes, this type of field you need to have like really strong, and we really are thankful to have strong technical team members. But that collaborative framework is the difference between having just a team of experts and having a collaborative team that works together and as an effective product development team.
That's so true. I think every project needs a diverse range of disciplines that you can then bring together and create something that's really new and really outstanding. And I feel like if anyone has ever worked on a project, you felt that every person's point of view has transformed your idea and perfected it in its own way. And I'm pretty sure your dad or mom, as you said, have always had an input on it, which is awesome in my opinion.
Yes, and something I wanted to add was also that it's so important to work with people who are a lot smarter than you and who have talents in certain areas that you have weaknesses, because that's where they can fill in the gaps, and their brains and minds might think completely different to yours, and they might have a suggestion for the design of your invention or product that you would have never thought of. So I think bringing in team members is like a crucial part to expanding the potential for your invention and turning it into a product.
Into a product that's viable and services its customers properly. You're right. My next question goes to Rishab. Every inventor faces setbacks. So that could be team members, could be resources, could be funding. Can you share a time that something didn't go as planned? And how are you able to stay motivated to keep learning and going? And what can other young inventors learn from that experience about resilience, persistence, and dedication?
Yeah, I think many examples come to mind, and just like overall about inventing as a whole, I would say that many of the systems are designed such that they're designed so that you will experience so many failures before you even get a single success. So we talk about funding, like the whole venture capital industry is set up such that each firm will say no to like 200, 300 startups they get pitched before saying one yes, right? And similarly for all the other pieces that we discussed. I think maybe one example that I faced was actually in a previous company I was working at called iCore Therapeutics. So we were working on a synthetic biology platform that could increase recombinant expression of certain genes expressed in a certain model organism. Essentially, you could produce more drugs for the same amount of time, cost, and plasmid. So it was a very valuable technology. But yeah, we got tons of rejections when trying to pitch to various biotech companies for getting wet lab validation. So I was pretty young at the time. I didn't have resources to any lab where I could go and test this technology. I had computationally proven that it was feasible and that the machine learning models that we were using worked. But yeah, that no one was really willing to fund it. But I just kind of kept going, and over the course of a year, probably spoke to a few hundred people.
Ooh.
And all it took was really one yes, and then we were able to demonstrate the technology did work, and ultimately had a great success with the company. So I think that whether it's pitching your product, whether it's going for funding, even trying to recruit and hire people, looking for that one key team member you really need, you're probably going to get a lot of no's before you get your first yes.
And how does that feel to everyone on stage? You all started very young, and I'm sure that many people felt like, no, you're young, you have time. It's okay if you fail once, twice, 3 times. How do you get over that failure? I have 2 minutes, but...
I mean, the more you fail, the more you become numb to it. And as Rishab said, is that this field specifically, it actually is like just littered with challenges and barriers. And people who decide to be part of this like journey already have to like have the mindset of, if it doesn't exist, I need to build it. Just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean that it's not valuable. So I'm sure that like all of them maybe have this mentality, and that that you're going to face barriers, but you just keep addressing them with the same mindset, which is innovation, innovation, innovation.
That is true.
Yeah, I think inventing is all about failure. I mean, that's what makes it fun, is the experimenting process, and like you try something, it doesn't work, you record the data, and then you go ahead and try again. And I have also taken that in my own life. sometimes where like I do something, I make a huge mistake, and I go, okay, what did I learn from that? And then you move forward. Yeah, in the creative process, whether it's in science or art or whatever, it's full of failure. I've made huge mistakes, but also those are the times I've learned the most. You know, like when you get 100% on a test, that's great, but you haven't learned anything new. It's actually when you fail, that's more interesting because you're learning something. And also I found slightly different with inventing, but also I had a lot of no's when it came to people's expectations, because I started speaking at conferences when I was like 16, and everyone would be like, why are you here? Or being a girl, or, you know, liking fashion, like all of these things were suddenly very questioned and taken apart. And I think the best thing you can do is just push forward and be the most genuine version of yourself. And also with inventing, it has to come from you. It can't come from some pretend or polished version.
That is true. You can't be performative with invention, can you now?
No, I mean,
You absolutely can't. Well, that's it. That's my time for today with you guys. Before we leave, I do want to remind everyone that Al-Majlis is Arabic Sign Language supported, and we actually had all learned how to say created by the youth. So one last time, this was my time with you. Are you ready? Okay. Created by the youth. So thank you so much. Would you like a selfie with all the audience? Let's take a group selfie. Everyone in the audience, if it's alright, not for publications, but we just want a group selfie. All right, let's
stand.
Go. Yeah, stand here and have it back. Come on. Ready, set. All right, thank you so much.